That has nothing to do with this video. I just felt like eating some wheat thins. Anyway, today we're talking about G.I. Joe Retaliation. This is a sequel to the 2009 G.I. Joe movie directed by Stephen Sommers, who's also directed other incredible films like Van Helsing. Anyway, this movie's directed by the same guy who directed the Step Up movies and I believe the Justin Bieber documentary. You know, that's one guy you wanted to get to direct your action G.I. Joe movie. He worked with Justin Bieber? Get him over here, now. Now listen, I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan. You know, as a kid, I used to play in my backyard with all my friends. We had the G.I. Joes, we had firecrackers, we had explosions, we had a sandbox that we used as the desert, we had a little mud puddle over here that was, well, we called it like the chocolate mud pit of doom because it looked like chocolate milk. Don't ask questions. The movie stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Channing Tatum as Duke. It also has, well, Marlon Wayans isn't here, thank God. It also has that hot chick that was in that movie Legion. Now, as far as the acting and performances go in this movie, it's a G.I. Joe movie. I wasn't looking for Schindler's List, you know? I was just like, as long as they all act like badasses who can kick some ass, and I'm gonna say ass one more time just to say it 3 times in one sentence, I was like, I'll be happy. And does everyone do that? Yeah, The Rock plays, you know, his kind of generic, I'm The Rock, and when I talk like I'm giving a speech. But he's a badass, and it's like, I'm okay with that. I'm not expecting subtleties from this guy. But the biggest issue with this movie is the script and the plot. It's just not very interesting, and it feels bloated and stretched out, and it feels real chopped and disassembled and discombobulated. It just doesn't feel cohesive enough to be a solid movie. It just feels like 15 writers came in here, they all worked on it for like 17 minutes, and they're like, what do we do? Tape it all together and make it a movie. You know, originally this movie was supposed to come out last summer. They held off for like 6-7 months. They're like, hey, we want to add some 3D to the movie. In reality, I had a feeling that they were going to go back and reshoot a lot of it to actually make a better movie, which they might have done, but that's just my theory. Maybe they did just want to add the 3D. But even so, actually, I think what it was is they just knew they couldn't compete in the summer last year, so like, we'll release it in March. So the plot to this movie has subplots that are just incomprehensible and stupid. You know, there's one subplot where you have Storm Shadow, and it goes back to his original backstory that you got in the 2009 movie, and it's just really stupid and lame. Like, it doesn't even make a lot of sense. They're just doing this to kind of make his character make sense now. And the main story of the movie is you have The Rock and a few other G.I. Joes, and they're like the only last G.I. Joes left standing, and then you have, you know, Snake Eyes. He's off doing his own thing somewhere, so there's kind of like 2 separate stories going on. You know, everything about the movie was just kind of mediocre and sloppy. You know, it just, nothing was done as good as it should have been. You know, you have action scenes in this movie where you're like, okay, you know, maybe they're gonna do something really cool here that we haven't seen before. And most of the action scenes in this movie just feel very up close. Like, they try to put the camera up close as they can, and you don't even really get a good view or sense of how they're doing anything. And the way they edit the shots together in this movie, you know, it's one fast cut scene after another fast cut scene, kind of like this. Now, did the movie have some good stuff about it? Well, yeah. You know, you had The Rock in the movie who played Roadblock. He was a complete badass. You know, they casted the perfect guy for that movie. I'm just glad they got rid of Marlon Wayans. You know, like, what the hell was he even doing in the last movie? Another thing I kind of liked was the one scene where you have Snake Eyes on the side of the cliff and he's like fighting bad guys. And the one thing I liked about it was I liked that the bad guys were all trying to like go on these wires and chase them, but some of them would just fail, like they'd slip off and fall and die. And little tidbits like that where all the bad guys just aren't perfect at their job, where they, you know, they mess up and they die for their mistake. I like that. Now, one of my biggest gripes about this movie is at the end of it, you have this scene where the president's meeting up with all the other world leaders about getting rid of nuclear weapons in their countries. And the scene kind of ends up with everyone threatening each other. Basically, they all brought briefcases to the meeting where you push one button and all their country's nuclear missiles just shoot out into the sky. I guess in the script, this scene is supposed to be really intense with all these nuclear weapons at everybody's fingertips, but it just came off really comedic. It's just like, why is everyone bringing a briefcase where you push one button and it shoots all your nuclear weapons into the sky when it's a meeting about disarming your nuclear weapons in your country? But overall, it's not a good movie. It's not even a good action movie. It's just kind of a sloppy mess. And because of that, and because I wanted to like it so bad, but it just failed on all these levels that I knew it would, I'm gonna have to give the movie a D+. So here's my question to you, and you can leave it down below in the comments. If you were a G.I. Joe, what would your nickname be? Mine would be Johnny Genocide. That sounds badass. So anyway, let me know what your G.I. Joe nickname would be down below. Get creative with it, get a little bit weird. You know how this goes.